This time on Ask Rad Rat, we talk about heel flips, we talk about bearings, we talk about if a helmet can really stop from crushing your head. Let's get into it. Welcome back to Rad Rat Video, a channel where you can learn all kinds of things about skateboarding, talk about all kinds of different topics, including answering your questions here on Ask Rad Rat. Start thinking of your own to submit for next time. First question today is from Rad Rat Video Fan, who asks, can an intermediate skater buy a complete/pre-built skateboard? And I picked this one to answer because I was confused as to why you think you couldn't. What's stopping you from buying a pre-built board even if you've been skating for a while? The only reason why people don't, I would think, are, well, two different things. First, it's rare that you need everything together all at once. Like your bearings might go bad and your deck might need to be replaced, but everything else is fine. So why would you buy a complete? The other thing is that you can get really picky about your stuff by that point. When you've been skating for a while, your wheels need to be exactly this size. Your width of your board has to be exactly this much. You'd like a certain kind of concave. So it's a lot easier for you to make your own board from scratch, knowing exactly what you want. But if that doesn't apply to you, you need a whole new board all at once, and you don't care too specifically about the exact details, or you find one that happens to match, go ahead and buy it. I don't know what would slow you down. There's nothing that would mark you as being a beginner just because you bought a complete. Do your thing, man. I don't care. Next question is from Elvis, who asks, why do so many people suck at heel flips? I do think there's one semi-legitimate reason, but the rest of it is just popularity. So the reason I don't like heel flips that much is because when you flick your front foot forward, it kind of blocks your view slightly, compared to a kick flip where you flick this way and you're kind of just open to seeing everything. And I think that's why nollie heel flips are actually kind of common as opposed to the rest of heel flips, because you're looking forward, you flick this way, you're not blocking your view because it's behind you. So I think that's one of the reasons why people don't do them quite as much, but it ultimately doesn't matter because it's mostly about popularity. Like 360 flips, really hard trick, honestly. Like, it is a difficult thing to do, but they're so popular that you have to be able to do it. You can't be the one guy who can't do a 360 flip. It'll be the thing that everyone throws at you in a game of skate. People make fun of you for not being able to do it. You have to be able to do a 360 flip. And so even though it's hard, you do it anyway. Right? And if heel flips were like that, if heel flips were really, really cool and everyone wanted to be able to do them, they would do them. There's nothing that challenging about a heel flip. Anyone can do one. But no one practices them that much. No one really gets into them at that level because they're not as popular. And I think that's really all there is to it. If some guy came out and did this crazy heel flip part where he was doing heel flips into grinds and out of them and doing all kinds of crazy heel flip combos, I think that they could be really cool and people would maybe start trying to pick them up again. But I think it's mostly just popularity. Next question is from Adam, which is about bearings and spacers. You may have answered this, but I think there needs to be a definitive answer and that it should come from you. I want to know if you should leave a tiny amount of slack when tightening your wheels. It seems like everyone recommends this, but it doesn't make sense to me. It means the bearing housing is also rotating on the wheel. If you use a spacer, the housing is clamped in place and the bearings do all the rotational work. Is it because people generally don't skate with spacers? So I think what he's saying is, like, let's imagine your bearing is 100% frozen, like it won't spin at all. If it's loose, just kind of free floating on the axle, it could still spin. It would just like slide along the axle a little bit. And so the question is, like, does that help? Does it make you maybe a little bit faster because your bearing or the bearing can slide around? Or do you tighten it all the way, make the bearing do all the work? I think that maybe you would be 0.001% faster if your bearing could slide around every now and then, but it can't really help you that much. But it will hurt because having your wheel be loose can be a problem in a bunch of other ways that aren't related to speed. I was thinking about doing like a crooked grind, right? Like you're on the ledge, your wheel is kind of pinched against it, and the truck is grinding over here. Now imagine if you're like partway through that grind, you shift just a little bit and your wheel slides. Because your wheel's got that little bit of space where it can slide back and forth because you didn't tighten it all the way. That would be a problem. If it's not gonna, your trick's not gonna feel the same every time. It might shift as you're doing the trick. That's not gonna be great. Or if you're sliding out a trick. spin halfway, you land sideways and you slide it out. If you land and the wheel starts to slide and it shifts in, then you like hit it, it would feel more jumpy and less stable. So I would always recommend tightening them all the way. I mean, not crush them on there, but so that your wheel doesn't have any give in it, just so it's more consistent. Are you sacrificing any speed? I don't think so, and I think it's generally all upside to do that. Last question is from Robert, who's talking about helmets. He sent me this video where they're testing an S1 Lifer helmet. They talk about the G-force from 6.5 foot being 1,000 G. So he's talking about with big pros starting to wear helmets and stuff, just what's my thoughts on it, survival rates wearing helmets, or if these guys are talking trash with their testing and all that kind of stuff. So I took a look at the video, and they're not talking about G-forces. That's a little bit different. That's like how much you feel like you weigh. If you are going up in a rocket or something like that, it's like your weight is multiplied because of the force pushing you up. So that's a little bit different because this is just the G's of acceleration alone. So they're dropping this helmet form 6.5 feet, hits the ground, and then it connected to a computer that tells you how much G-force it's experiencing. Or how much G's, see I did it too, it's confusing. How many G's it experienced in deceleration. It goes from full speed to 0 really, really quickly. And I ran the numbers, and for it to be 1,000 G, then the head form would have had to slow down in 0.00065 seconds. Like in less than a blink of an eye, it went from full speed to stopped. Which makes sense. There's no padding on your head. It's just bone with some skin on it, right? So that 0.00065 seconds was your head crunching a little bit. And big facts here on the channel. I don't know if you know this. Your head's not supposed to squish or crunch at all. You don't really want that. So even for 0.0065 seconds, that is going to do a lot of damage. That's pretty bad for your head to go through that kind of force. Your brain's going to squish against your skull, and you're going to be in some trouble. Keep in mind that's a 6.5 foot fall on your head. Not a hugely common thing to have happen in skateboarding, but it could. And that's just a straight fall. If you like whip down, like if you're caught and you'd actually, like if you tip over, your head falls faster than the rest of your body because, you know, of the way that things fall. Your feet are going to hit the ground pretty lightly, but your head's going to hit a lot harder. So that's just the way they tested it. That's still a pretty bad fall. But when they put their helmet on, it jumped it down to the 200s. It took over 70% of the force away. And the way that works is by expanding that amount of time as much as possible. How long does it take for your head to slow down to stop? If you have a squishy material, but not too squishy, you know, it'll start to absorb that impact. And with different kinds of brands of helmets and different materials and thicknesses and all that kind of stuff, you can play with that number of how long it takes for your head to slow down in a major impact. There's, I know you were wondering if this test seemed legit or not, and it did to me. I didn't see anything with it that seemed questionable. If you can take away 70% of the impact from a major fall, that could definitely save your life. I know I've talked about this story before on the channel, but I didn't know the kid, but I knew the family of the kid who was skating. He did like downhill stuff, hit a rock, smashed his head so hard his brain swelled they had to cut out a hole in his skull to relieve the pressure. Like, it's serious business. And a helmet like this, or any main brand, like a legit brand, I don't know these guys compared to everyone else. I'm sure the comparisons they did in the test were like worst case scenario garbage helmets that they found in the dumpster, but any legit brand who's making helmets, any of that stuff could legitimately save your life if you're doing anything that dangerous. Me, I skate around going 5 miles an hour doing kickflips and 50-50 grinds on curbs. I'm probably safe, but I'm glad that pros are starting to wear helmets because like people could die for real. So I was impressed to see the performance of this helmet. I'm sure there are other ones that are up in that tier as well. But yeah, if you're at all worried with the kind of stuff you do, you're launching out of big ramps and you could end up flipped around in the air and coming down wrong, you might want to think about it. I know it's not considered the coolest thing in the world, but it's not cool to be in a coma either. It'd be kind of cool. I wouldn't mind being in a coma. But yeah, that's all I know about helmets. Not a huge expert on them, but the numbers that they showed in that video seemed legit, and it was a little bit scary. So check that out if you want to learn more about how that stuff works. That's all for this time. Go to radratvideo.com to submit your question for the next set of these videos. There's a form right there on the homepage. Also, make sure you tap my logo on the screen right here to make sure you're subscribed and you don't miss anything coming up in the future, and watch these other videos in the meantime. Thanks for watching.